Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today I have a special treat for you guys, a video on the ultimate Druhkari combo. Now, when it was first revealed that the codex was coming out, I read up on this particular combo, and I thought it was pretty good. I even played it in a couple of my games. However, I didn't truly understand its power until I started matching it up against some of the toughest things in the game, and surprisingly, watching it absolutely decimate those units while costing about half of what that enemy unit cost. Absolutely insane, guys. This combination will destroy Imperial Knights. And I'm not talking about the little knights, I'm talking about the big ones. This combo will rip them to shreds. So without further ado, let us go ahead and jump right in and talk a little bit about what our opponents and what the meta is going to be fearing next. So we're first going to dive into what is needed for the combo. We're going to be talking about what the combo actually does, the working parts of it. And lastly, I'm going to demonstrate the combo on Tabletop Simulator for you guys and discuss the applications. So what is needed for the combo? So you are going to be using the Kabbalite Cartel detachment. Now, of course, there's a lot of combos and a lot of different detachments that are very powerful, but this combination is probably the most powerful in the entire book. And I recently did a video on Hellions when I talked about how much damage Hellions could do. Well, this combination kind of blows that one out of the water. And it's simply this. Kabbalite Cartel, 10 Incubi, which are currently 160 points, an Archon with the Webway All. You don't technically need the Webway All, but it is a very good enhancement. That's going to cost you 105 points. And so in total, we have a 265 point unit, around the cost of one of the more expensive Land Raiders. So I know Land Raiders just got reduced in cost, but around there, pretty expensive. But as far as something that can kill, something much higher points than it, it's actually really cheap. Now, just for reference, Fuegan and 10 Fire Dragons shooting at an Imperial Knight obviously are going to, on average dice, kill the thing. But, and this is the caveat here, that combination with the Wave Serpent and Fuegan and the Fire Dragons and all that cost way more than this unit costs. Much, much more. And yeah, you can get back in the Wave Serpent after and, rinse and repeat, of course. But much more expensive, much more resources that you have to put into it, and so forth. And this combination is wild, because this is what it does, guys. Now, how this basically works is you're going to use the Webway All. Now, the Webway All is an ability that allows the unit to deep strike, but it also allows you to rapid ingress for 0 CP. So you can basically set it up in a turn, in advance. You can rapid ingress in during your opponent's turn at the end of their movement phase, and you can be in a really good position to come out, move, charge, whatever you want. Now, what makes this possible is the detachment rule. Now, essentially, you're going to have one of these active, and you're going to want to pick one that is going to buff, your unit, right? Your 10 Incubi and Archon, your mini Death Star there, against your chosen target. So if you have a really hard infantry unit or mounted unit that you want to crack in the midfield, like a big unit of Terminators, Deathwing Knights, whatever it is, then you're going to want Sustained Hits 1. If you're going against anything really, really tough, like Knights, for example, where you're going to be wounding them on 6s, you're going to be wanting to go for lethal hits instead. Both of them are really good. I don't know. I kind of lean more towards lethal hits myself in most cases, but it depends what opponent you're fighting against, right? So you're either going to have lethal hits or sustained hits, depending on whether that big tough target is going to be an infantry unit or a monster or vehicle. Now, Incubi themselves are very powerful. They did get a recent buff in the new codex. They did get a buff in their strength. So now instead of strength 4, they're strength 5. This is actually a big deal because it means they're wounding Terminators on 4s versus previously they were wounding on 5s. So that is a pretty good, glow up for these guys against tougher targets. Now they also get, per 5 Incubi, you get 1 Incubi Shrine token, which can be used to put a hit roll or a wound roll into a 6. So if you're going against a super tough target like a knight and you have lethal hits set up, then you can just get 2 bonus lethal hits. And this is after you reroll. So this is after all the fishing and stuff that you do for lethal hits. You can go ahead and change those. You can also, if you're going against an infantry unit, change those to dev wounds, because Incubi also get, for a pain token, dev wounds against infantry units. So that is pretty awesome as well. So Terminators, unless they have a feel no pain ability, are just not going to be getting any saves against a vast majority of the attacks this unit puts out. In addition to this, now this won't always happen, but your opponent has to take a battle shock to be able to fight this unit. So when you charge in, right, at the start of the fight phase, you take a battle shock test. Or your opponent takes a battle shock test. And if they fail it, then you add 1 to the hit roll of your melee attacks. That is also a slight buff from what we saw in the index. So this won't always happen, but it is a nice bonus. And if it does happen, it's pretty good. It allows you to fish more reliably for those lethals or sustained hits. Other than that, basically everything's the same about Incubi as it was in the index. They have, AP -2, damage 2 weapons with 3 attacks apiece. The Clavix does get an extra attack in the codex. Now, the most important part about this probably is that this is a Blades for Hire unit, so that means they're going to be able to benefit from all the Kabbalite Cartel bonus effects and stratagems. And then, of course, we have the Archon. So the Archon is going to be leading these guys, and he gives them rerolls to hit with his pain ability. So now this allows the unit to fish for lethal hits, sustained hits, and just generate more attacks against your opponent. He also comes with a pretty interesting set of weapons. Now, in most cases, you're going to take the Husk Blade. The Husk Blade is simply a dev wounds weapon with 4 attacks, weapon skill 2+, strength 3, AP -2, damage 3. That doesn't seem that good, but when you add the Soul Trap, you're getting +1 attack and strength. So you're actually at strength 4 at 5 attacks. Damage 3 is a really good profile against things like regular Terminators, but, the Archon, his damage isn't the best against a lot of targets. He really starts to get ramped up when he kills something. So, unfortunately, the Archon's just going to be kind of that, empowering type unit that just makes the squad better. He can, of course, unbattle shock his unit at the start of any phase. So if your opponent has some sort of battle shock ability in the charge phase, you can simply, in the fight phase, allow your unit to no longer be battle shocked. So that means you can target it with stratagems again and stuff like that. He also reduces the CP cost of strats on your unit by 1. So we talked a little bit about the Webway All making something, rapid ingress 0 CP. Well, now he can use other stratagems for 0 CP on that next turn. Or if your opponent charges in, he can do things like a free he can do a free heroic intervention, or he could use a free stratagem from the list of Kabbalite Cartel strats. Okay, so what does this combo do? Well, this combo allows you to basically position your unit perfectly, right? As the game develops, as your opponent moves their models to different places, sometimes, unfortunately, big squads of 10 Incubi are just not maneuverable enough to get into a good position or reposition easily. So this combo allows you to do that from reserve. So very powerful. And this will prevent you from, or prevent your opponent, I should say, from being able to engage you properly. So you can rapid ingress to heroically intervene, for example. And again, all of this is free, so you can save your command points for the specific stratagems that you need to in your detachment to get those, crits on 5s against your contract target, or, your +1 to hit. Now, what this also does is it simply shreds most targets in the game. You are getting a combination of sustained or lethal hits. You are getting reroll hits. You are getting +1 to hit if they fail a battle shock test, or you could do +1 to hit from a stratagem, or 5+ critical hits if it's your contract unit, which, by the way, you should plan ahead to make sure that the contract unit is the one that you're hitting, because that way you maximize the effectiveness of this unit. This unit is a hammer that is meant to just bash your opponent in. However, it doesn't stop there. You also get dev wounds against infantry units. So this is killing Big Knights and Death Stars pretty easily. And if you don't believe me, just do the math. If you're critting on 5s, so basically against Big Knights and stuff, you're obviously going to be getting lethal hits. And instead of the +1 to hit, of course, if they fail their battle shock, they're going to be a +1 to hit. But you're going to want to crit on 5s so that you can fish for 6s, fish for lethal hits, right? And the more lethal hits you get, Knights are saving on a 5-up at that point. They're going to be taking a lot of damage. And most Knights don't get an invul in combat, so they're going to be at a 5-up. Some Knights do get, obviously a invul in combat, like the shield ones, like the Knight Atropos and stuff like that. But those units can be kind of softened up with things like Dark Lances and so forth. So your Incubi don't need to do as much heavy lifting against those. Also, kind of a side thing, but you can additionally use the stratagem Double Cross to ensure your unit survives at the cost of another engaged unit if you use Heroic Intervention. So this army comes with a lot of Kabalite warriors. You're going to probably field maybe, I would say probably 4 units of Cobs, right? 3 of them can infiltrate. You probably don't need that many units to infiltrate, but 3 or 4 units of Kabalite warriors is going to be standard in this kind of army. I am almost certain that Kabalites are going to go down in points when we get our official points for the Druhkari Codex. The reason being is because the warriors, the Cobs from the Index, actually are kind of worse in the Codex. They do have more synergy with stratagems and stuff like that, but the datasheet itself is kind of worse. I know they have a pain ability, quote unquote, that allows them to reroll wound rolls of 1 or reroll full wound rolls if the opponent is on an objective, but that's simply not as good as just rerolling hits. Especially with all the critical effects that you get, like reroll, sustained hits and lethal hits and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure GW, the balance team, is going to revert those back to 100 points where they are currently sitting now. I can't see a world in which they just leave them at 115 points when, there's a bunch of battle line units that are way, way cheaper and better. So, yeah, I think Kabalite's going to go down in points. Having said that, Cobs are still really good. I think they're a really good unit, but they're expendable, right? 100 points for 10, if their points change, that is. Even at 115, you can sacrifice that unit, and then your Incubi get to strike. And they're going to just wipe the enemy unit out, right? With a Heroic Intervention or something like that. So that is something you can do. Obviously, if your unit gets charged, like if you're going up against World Eaters, for example, and you wipe out a unit of 8-bound or something like that, Exalted 8-bound, which also, by the way, this unit can rip apart Exalted 8-bound like nothing. I know that doesn't really seem like a big deal, but it is, because they are still quite expensive units, even though they got a huge point decrease recently. And so what you can do is if something else charges you, you can, heroically intervene with Kronos, or you can heroically intervene with a Kabbalite unit, and then use double cross and just kill all the Kabbalites. And maybe maybe they kill a couple Incubi as well, right? But you can strike back again and do more damage than you would have done normally, right? So this unit's really, really powerful. And this detachment really works well to enhance their survivability. Also, 18-inch loan up. That's another stratagem that this detachment has, is the ability to just loan up your unit 18, right? So you could rapid ingress in 18 inches away from something, right? And just not be shot at. Or even closer, right? It depends on what the battlefield looks like, but you can get away with some seriously crazy shit with this unit in this detachment. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hop onto Tabletop Simulator, and I'm going to show you some of the ways in which you can use this unit effectively. And not only just to do damage, but to ruin your opponent's plans and completely prevent your opponent from interacting with your units. All right, we'll be on Tabletop Simulator just a second. Alrighty guys, welcome to our Tabletop Simulator example here, and we're going to be showing you how the Incubi Death Star can completely obliterate your opponent and put them in really hard positions. So usually this combo is going to be best against an opponent that has melee threats. So obviously if they have a shooting army, this combo can still be used aggressively, but you're going to have to be going after some high priority targets, and typically going against something like Tau or Imperial Guard, you're going to have to get a really good charge against an expensive vehicle, right? Something like a Rogel Dorn battle tank, for example, which, by the way, this combo can kill pretty consistently a Rogel Dorn battle tank. So there is that. Okay, so we have a scenario here where we have some Kabbalite warriors that have infiltrated on this objective over here. We have a little squad of Scourges, and we have some Kronos over here. Now, obviously, this isn't a full army, but we are playing on Search and Destroy. I believe this is GW layout number 5 or 6, one of those. And we have our squad of Incubi in reserve. Now, what we're going to have to look out for is situations in which our Incubi can make a maximum impact and prevent our opponent from being able to either A, deny us the ability to score, or B, destroy the Incubi themselves, right? We want to find situations where our opponent's trying to deny our ability to score objectives, primary, and stuff like that, and we're going to just put an end to it with the Incubi without losing all of the Incubi, because the weakness of this unit is that they don't have fights first. So they can't just go in there and just say, oh, I'm going to fight first and I'm going to kill everything, right? So that is something we have to watch out for. Now, there's a couple of different things we can do. So let's say we have a huge Death Star like this. Now, this Death Star right here, something like Sanguinary Guard, actually kind of perfect for our example. These guys are elite infantry. They have 4+ invul saves. They have 2+ armor. They're at -1 to hit and wound in close combat. But of course, we don't really care too much about that stuff because we have so much damage and so many dev wounds and things like that that Sanguinary Guard are just not going to be able to stand up well, even led by Dante, right? Now, these guys are, again, really strong. We do have to watch out for them, but a squad of Incubi can very well take them out. So, their target is going to be the Cobbs here. Now, we're putting the Cobbs on the objective because we're betting that our opponent is not going to want to spend this huge... I mean, this is a massive Death Star, right? They're not going to want to just kill some Cobbs and basically just be done with it, right? Like, just die afterward. Because we have a ton of shooting. We have all these different things, right? So we're going to bet that they're not going to go after the Cobbs. So putting Cobbs here is actually a really good move because this is going to force our opponent to use something smaller against this Kabbalite unit. Something like a squad of intercessors, right? So a squad of intercessors, there they are, assault intercessors, very much able to just jump over there and take these guys out, right? So a good opponent will simply take a squad of 5 intercessors, jump pack intercessors like this, and, you know, they'll have them against the wall right here most likely. I have to actually swap that around. Whoops. I don't know why that never locks. A little glitch there. Oh no. Okay. Sanguinary Guard, they're there. So these guys are right here, and they move their 12 inches over. Jeez. Gonna be right about here, right? This is where they should be in general. They want to be kind of looped around here so they don't get like super overwatched or anything. And they're right like this, right? Ready to charge in. So very easy charge. They're going to absolutely make the charge there. And you might even have something like a ball predator come in, but obviously, you know, your opponent doesn't want to lose too many resources right off the bat. If they're spending, you know, this is a 90-point unit, I think, or 85-point unit, and the ball predator is 100 and something points, I think 125. This is 200 points, killing about 100 points worth of models. They are going to lose all of this stuff next turn if they do that. So, you know, they do have to kind of watch out for that a little bit. So let's just assume they're going to make a small trade here, and they're just going to kill our cobs, right? They're going to try to kill them. Well, if it's turn 2, which it probably will be at this point, if it's turn 2 and it's time to score points and things like that, then we can we can deep strike, rapid ingress our Incubi squad. So we have a couple of options. We can just, depends on where their opponent is, right? But we can just rapid ingress right outside of 9 inches. So we just put our bubbles here. Boop. And we're just going to put one model just right here as close as possible so that we can be within that 6 inches, right? So that we can be within 6 when they charge in. Perfect. Right, so we got that. So this model will have to base right here probably, and they will have to get into base contact and keep in coherency. So we got that right here. Boom. So we got that rapid ingress. So Incubi right there. And then what we can do with the rest of them is we can kind of just do this kind of thing. So there's a reason for this, obviously. Now, hopefully they don't have too much shooting. Again, if they do have shooting, then the best move is just to keep your Incubi right here, or just not rapid ingress them. Just lose the squad, right? Maybe have something else here. Maybe have like Lilith with, you know, 5 witches that are split into venom. You could have the 5 witches right here with Lilith. They can, you know, do some heroic intervention, fights first stuff for you. Or they could just clean up the unit. Maybe you have 5 Hellions right there or something like that. But we don't want to use this Death Star for something like that because that's not going to be that great, right? So we can come in here. The main goal, like I said, is to prevent your opponent from getting points and denying you points. So kind of just do this kind of thing, and we're going to do that simply because we don't want to get shot up too much. If our opponent shoots us once, that's fine. If our opponent shoots us multiple times, then we're out on our ass. So we don't want that. Okay. Plus, we don't need this whole squad to deal with 5 assault intercessors. So squad jumps in, right? They're going to charge, and they're going to, you know, roll their charge roll here. Oop, that's 3 dice. It's too many. Hold on. They're going to roll 4. Okay. Not a big charge. So they're going to go there 4 inches. But even at 4, you know, they have to base if possible with something. So we got 4 inches there. I believe that's still enough. Yeah. So they're going to move. This actually benefits us as well if they roll low, because they're really not going to be able to get too many models in combat with us here. All right. Most of them are going to be fighting Kabalites, right? So we've rapid ingress for free, and now we're going to go ahead and charge in ourselves. So we're going to roll those dice. 11. Okay, we get a great roll there. So that's fine. We didn't need an 11, but we got it anyway. So what I like to do, just move the Archon up. If you get the charge roll possible to do it, move the Archon up. And then basically move these guys up. Whoops. These guys don't have measured movement on. Let me just turn that on real quick. Come on. There we go. All right. We're just going to move everybody we can kind of around here. Boom. Move the Clavix into base contact here. Okay, we rolled on 11. That's incredible. But we get a pile in anyway, right? Like, there was no chance that we didn't get enough models in to kill this enemy unit. So we got that. Got this. Again, it's an 11, so I do have room to just go around. And then that's about it, right? Now we have to kind of just go like this. Like this. We're just getting all our guys in here. Remember, we can always consolidate closer to the objective against the wall after we're done. So our opponent isn't in a great position to, you know, just kill us on the return. So a couple of models won't be able to fight. That's fine. All right. So basically what happens here is your opponent does some mortal wounds, right? 5 dice go to your Kabbalites, and then they get to pile in. So we got 5 for the mortals. They get 3. And what we're going to do, we're going to take away from the back here. So we would set this up ahead of time so that the, you know, splinter rifles and stuff like that, we were out of engagement. So maybe you just pick this one. What's that one? Splinter cannon. No, we want splinter cannon. We'll take this guy. 1, 2, 3. I think maybe we're not. Yeah, we're still good. Okay. We're still good there on coherency. Again, usually put all your splinter rifles towards the back if you can, just because that way you don't have to kill them first. Or that way you can kill them first. And you can keep these guys pinned in. So basically, these guys are in base already, so they can't really do anything else, right? By the way, these guys are up against a wall for a reason, because we wanted to bait these guys in. We didn't want to give these guys an easy opportunity to just charge the Incubi on this side, so we put it here. So our opponent's like, okay, well, it's no big deal. I can charge on the other side of the wall and be protected from shooting, right? At least partially. So we kind of played our opponent in that way, in that we set up our Kabbalites in a position where they could have been charged on the other side of the wall, only to kind of just bait them into something like this, right? And at that point, your opponent has to go for it. Your opponent really doesn't have a choice to just sit there and do nothing, right? If you rapid ingress in, your opponent already has a unit out there. They might as well do something about it, right? Okay, so basically what's going to happen, these guys are going to attack. 2 of them can attack the Incubi. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say double cross. And this is what's going to happen. The 2 that attack the Incubi are going to have 8 attacks. And again, Incubi are not Oath of Moment or anything like that because they were in reserve. So we don't have to worry about that shit. So they have 8 attacks coming in. We're going to just double cross, right? So these are the double cross ones. All right, 2 we're going to miss. And they're going to need 2s, basically. All right. So, and I know they're just chain swords, but, you know, if they're playing, I think it's Liberator Soul Group or something like that, where they get the +2 strength and all that, they're just going to just rip right through. I mean, even if they don't, they're going to do some serious damage. So, we're just going to take 5 mortal wounds here. Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. All right, now the rest of them we're going to attack, and we're going to just remove these. That's it. Okay? So they just got wrecked, which they were going to get wrecked anyway, right? If they all went in with Oath of Moment and all that stuff, they would have gotten wrecked regardless. So now our Incubi get to fight, and we're going to select them to fight. We're going to pile in, and we're actually, I think, going to be able to get them all into combat. I don't know for sure, but I think so. Yeah, we're gonna, yep, just like that, right? So everything is in base or within base, that's something that's in base. So guess what happens to these Assault Intercessors? See ya. They're gone. Right? We've used our double cross kind of as a pseudo way to protect our unit. These guys are dead. We'll move them over here now so they can be used later. And we're going to consolidate back on the objective. We're just going to move our 3 inches. We're just going to get as close to the wall as possible here. Boink. Again, you might not be able to move all of them, but that's okay. And it's our turn next anyway, so we're just going to be in a position. I mean, we could even be kind of cheeky and just go forward, right, if we really wanted to. But we're not. We're just going to kind of move so we have a guaranteed objective here. We have enough OC on it and stuff. So, all right. Cool. This guy back here. There we go. All right. So we got that going on. And now that big Death Star that's waiting behind here is now threatened because Commander Dante doesn't have fights first, right? Now, they could have the Sanguinor nearby or something like that, you know, which could ruin our day. But, you know, if they're right here behind the wall, we can always shoot them, right? That's the positive thing. We can always shoot them, or we just don't do anything, right? Because if they're behind this wall here, they're not controlling objectives. They're not really engaging at all. So we just play it safe. We've already stickied the objective from the Kabbalites, so they never took that away from us. We had control over it all, the entire time at the end of the phase. So it's still sticky. So we may not even have to worry about this over here. Now, we could do that, or we could deal with something, a bigger threat to the right. So let's say there's a big squad of guys coming in, right? This big old squad of, I don't know, Raptors or something like that. Maybe they're Chaos Space Marines. Warp Talons, something, right? And they're going to move 12 inches. It could be Blood Angels. Move the 12 inches right up here. And they're going to charge the Chronos because they want to kill the Chronos and then consolidate on the objective right here. So they're going to move up. They're going to, you know, get close to the Chronos, charge in, do some mortal wounds or whatever the unit does. And then they're going to consolidate onto the objective and take it. So, you know, this could be really devastating, especially if we've drawn something like Defend Stronghold or, you know, basically if you're playing Linchpin, this could be really shitty. So we can just come in like this. Right? Boom. I know this seems weird, guys, but trust me. We could come in right here as long as they don't have any shooting that can like go through here and just murder us, right? We can come in right back here. And this is going to put your opponent in a really bad spot. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But basically, you know, we have all our guys like right here. Measure the charge distance, and it's pretty, yeah, it's 9 inches. So, you know, they're definitely not getting their whole unit in here, which is what we want to play for. We want to play against, we want to play the odds, essentially, right? All right. Whatever, that's good enough. So, I mean, maybe move a couple models over here. Yeah, we can move a couple more over here when we rapid ingress in. Yeah, again, we're outside of 9, so we're good. Okay. Anyway, I'm fiddling around with this a lot because it matters, but it doesn't matter that much. Okay, so we're right here. That's well and fine. Now, we're giving our opponent this option because if our opponent's greedy enough, they might try to charge these guys, right? Now, 2 things can happen here. They can charge my unit, I can heroically intervene with the Chronos, and they're done, right? The Chronos are going to get into combat, engage a bunch of them in combat, and then they're not going to be able to move or pile in. Or the smarter opponent will just say, I'm just going to go for the Chronos because that's an easy charge. And then I'll get, you know, heroically intervened and, you know, what can I do? I'll just attack back when I can, right? So what we can do is they're going to charge us. Let's see what they roll. Whoops. Let's see what they roll. Okay, 11. That's pretty good. But they're only, again, they only declared against Kronos, right? Because this was like a 10-inch charge. So we're going to go 11. Let me actually put on measurement on these dudes. I don't think all of them had it. So they get in here. And we're going to go 11. So we're going to go boom. Again, the key here is they just want to get all their attacks. They don't want to get into engagement, so they can't really move farther than this, I believe. Yeah, can't move any farther than that. And they're just going to go in here. Boom. That guy would have been good. And then I think the rest of them, yeah, the rest of them have to just be in base with something that's in base. So we can be right here. And at this point, a good opponent is going to make sure that they have as many models as possible, since they can't base anymore, as many models as possible to counter the Incubi threat, right? But the rest of them aren't really going to be able to do anything. So we're going to go here, we're going to go here, and here. Get as close as possible. Now, a couple of things we can do. But we have some decisions, right? Now, we could heroically intervene, which is fine. If we heroically intervene, then we just double cross the Kronos. The Kronos die, but we get to wipe the unit out, right? So that's scenario number one. Not all of the models are going to be able to attack the Incubi anyway. However, if they have a lot of buffs and stratagems and stuff, that could be really bad, because they could kill the Kronos and all the other damage can go back to the Incubi, right? So that's not good. We don't want that. So what we're going to do here, these types of units are usually OC1. We have Incubi here, which all of them should be, yeah, except for that guy for some reason, because he's not squished all the way in. But we have 10 OC on this objective, right? So if our opponent wants to get every single model on the objective, they can't without getting into engagement with us. And as soon as they get into engagement, they're done. So basically, guys, we've rapid ingress for free. We could heroically intervene, but we don't have to, right? And so they do all their damage here. Let's assume that they kill the Kronos. Let's assume that they kill them, right? They have +2 strength. They have stratagem usage and stuff like that. They kill the Kronos. And then guess what these guys are there doing now? Nothing. Maybe they have a captain in the squad, right? Captain with jump pack. If they engage us, if they consolidate into us now to capture that objective, they will all die. Every single one of them. Right? So, they're probably not going to do it. Point blank. They've already attacked. They can't attack the Incubi. We're not going to charge into them. They're just going to sit there. And that's a bad trade for our opponent. Our opponent made a move because at the time it was a good move, but we just rapid ingress down, right? And that's the power of this unit. We don't even have to fight with it, right? It does so much damage. We don't even have to fight with it, but it can still absolutely just wreck our opponent's combat plans. Okay. So, obviously, rules to think about. Fight near objectives, right? Rapid ingress just outside of a comfortable charge so your opponent doesn't charge you, but charges something else. And that will force your opponent to either consolidate into the Incubi or do nothing, right? Just charge the unit that they're originally going to do. And usually in this army, in Kabbalite Cartel, the other units are going to be things like Kabbalite Warriors, Kronos, Ravagers, Scourges, all cheap units that a big Death Star like this just really won't trade well against. Okay, here's the last thing. So we kind of talked about some of the advantages of just being able to basically deep strike, rapid ingress a big unit like this anywhere. But this is a common thing. A lot of opponents' armies have something like that, especially with fights first or something. But what about against like a knight, right? What can it do against knights? Now, I can guarantee you that mathematically speaking, it will absolutely destroy a knight, right? A squad like this will wreck a knight very easily. We're going to load those dudes in. And we're just going to say, I don't know. Let's pretend this is like a knight defender or something. I don't know. Like some sort of knight, right? And they have some sort of knight. They have it like right here. Boop. Or maybe, you know, they had to get the middle objective for some reason. Maybe it's later in the game. Whatever. We'll put it right here instead, just to make it a little bit more of a better example. So that's right there. And we're going to go ahead and rapid ingress right here, right? We're going to come right in here because our opponent's not going to be able to engage us here. We're also outside of that 12 inches, so we're perfect right there, right? Our opponent can engage us. We're going to be 1.1 away from the wall. It's not going to be able to charge over us, so we're just going to be chilling. Again, I'm not going to move them perfect here, but they're somewhere in this area. They're not going to be shot at, and they're pretty much good to go. And they're going to be an inch point one off the wall. We'll just make it a little like that, right? Something like that. Okay. So our opponent does their thing. They shoot. Maybe they kill some stuff, whatever. And then guess what happens? Next turn, we come out 7 inches. It's a little sad that they're kind of slow, but we got 7 inches right there. Easy charge. And we're just going to charge them, right? We're going to charge in. Boink. And they do have a detachment ability, like a reactive move, but shouldn't be that much of an issue. If we really want to deal with the reactive move, we can either bait one out with other units. Like we have Scourges, we have Raider or Ravagers. We have a lot of other units that can try to bait a reactive move before our Incubi go in, right? And that will give us again, Incubi are going to be able to kill these guys anyway, right? Like we can be patient. We can be patient. We can kill them with Haywire. We can kill them with Dark Lances if they pop out in the middle. But I just wanted to show you guys this just because it's just absolutely epic what these guys can do. Okay, so we get into combat. We're going to give them a battle shock test right now, and then we're going to go from there. Okay. Sorry, anyway. They should have been able to make it in. Okay. So we got them in there. Again, this thing has 26 wounds. It's freaking insane. So, battle shock test. What happens? Pass. Okay. Fair enough. That's always the case. Doesn't matter. Even without that, we're good. So, the first thing we're going to do, obviously, we have our contract up. So, we're going to be getting lethal hits. This is going to be our contract unit. We have planned this in advance. We knew kind of where that knight was going to go. And we planned accordingly, right? That's key to this army. You have to pick your targets accordingly so that you can do major damage against them. So we're going to be critting on 5s. We're going to be activating a strat that allows us to crit on 5s, and we're going to give them a pain token. So we're going to give them that pain token. Boom. And they're critting on 5s. We'll just say this is a 5, right? There we go. Okay. 31 attacks for the Incubi and Clavix together. So we're going to go boom, boom, boom. 31 attacks. So, first, 5-up lethals. Rerolling hits. All right. So, those are lethal hits. Let's reroll all our dice and fish for 6s, baby. 5s and 6s. Let's go. Perfect. The 1s and 2s miss. That's totally fine because they're not going to really do anything on the wound roll anyway. And we're going to roll these. We now need 6s for these. So these are going to be, we might get a couple more. That's why we're fishing. So we got 2 more here. Clear. Oh, God. All right. Let's see if that works, and if not, we'll... I mean, we got 19 lethals here, so I think we're good. There we go. It moved back. Okay. All right, so... Sorry about that, guys. We got 19 lethals, which is absolutely insane. And we're going to roll these. We're looking for 6s. Okay, we got 2 6s before. We'll keep the old roll. I know for a fact it was just 2. So we're going to have 2 plus 19. That's 21 lethal hits, guys. Can our opponent make that many 5-up saves? Let's see. So our opponent made this many 5-up saves. It's dead. 2 damage each. The knight has fallen. They have failed 14 saves. So we've done 28 damage, which is enough to kill it. So guys, even without the Archon, we've killed the knight. It's done. It's gone. It's out of here. Goodbye. That's how good this unit is. And it's freaking 265 points. And it just killed something worth like 400 points, right? I think the Knight Defender's 400 points. But I mean, even if it's something else, like even if it's like a, you know, Canis Rex or something like that, I mean, we're killing something that's insanely expensive for the cost. So there we go. Age of Darkness, whatever, Knight, gone. This unit absolutely obliterates stuff. And that's our contract. So we get 3 pain tokens for that. And that's it. This unit's probably dead now, but that's okay. We've just killed a big knight. Like, these trades are necessary for the game, right? Now, yeah, you probably only have one of these units, but I mean, you know, you could also have another one of these units with an Archon. There's nothing against it. You just won't be able to use Webway all, but you could have another Archon with infiltrate ability, for example, right? Which is still really good, right? That you need the infiltration enhancement anyway. So you could have 2 of these units. I know that's really expensive, but you know, if you really wanted to crack open hard targets, that's not a bad way to do it. And you also have other tools in your army. You know, Cabalites are pretty cheap. You have a lot of Cabalites. Now, upon further inspection, I know that the Hand of the Archon is a Cabal unit. I don't actually, the more I look at the Hand of the Archon, the more I don't like it. And I think that the Hand of the Archon is good as a utility, but it's too expensive. They probably have to reduce the price of it. You don't have as many special weapons. You only get 1 Blaster or Shredder and 1 Dark Lancer or Splinter Cannon. You don't get all 4 options. And you get some melee options, but the melee options aren't that good. You know, it's a hybrid unit that doesn't really do that much damage in shooting and doesn't really do that much damage in close combat. And its whole thing is it has a lot of OC. We'll talk about the Hand of the Archon in a future video, but I think it's very niche, and I think it's only good in certain matchups which require you to have a lot of OC on your models. Other than that, just not that good, honestly. So putting an Archon with 10 more Incubi, or Lady Malice with some Incubi, is a really good choice in this detachment. And honestly, a couple Ravagers with either Disintegrator Cannons or Dark Lances. And of course, you can have some Haywire Scourges or Darkland Scourges. I think, honestly, Knight armies don't stand a chance. They do not stand a chance. A lot of the more meta armies as well are susceptible to rapid ingress, right? A lot of things that your opponent wants to do, like charge into you or do certain things, you can counter that with rapid ingress and just have some, you know, expendable pawns nearby, some expendable trash like Cobalite Warriors or Chronoses or stuff like that. And your opponent's just not really going to be able to get through. Yeah, they might be able to get a couple models attacking against your Incubi, but that's about it. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit difficult for your opponent to, you know, manage their way around this unit. And if you have multiple units like this doing this, then that can be pretty insane. Only one of them is going to have the Webway all, but you could just have one of them just sitting nearby. Or heck, you could even have Lilith. I know she's not a Cabal unit, but she does have fights first. So you could have her nearby. Or, you know, you could have just Scourges and more Cobalite Warriors waiting to just light up whatever kills one of your things. So yeah, this army is absolutely insane. I'm actually going to do a list video as soon as the codex comes out officially and New Recruit revises their, updates their platform. I'm going to do a list review on the Kabbalite Cartel because I think it's a really cool detachment. And yeah, that's it. If you guys have seen that I've missed anything or want to add anything to the conversation about Kabbalite Cartel, feel free to, drop a comment. I know some people are a little bit skeptical about the Kabbalite Cartel, but I think what's powerful about it is that it has tools that no other detachment has, right? Like it has the ability to infiltrate cobs. I think that, and cobs have sticky objectives, right? I think that's really, really powerful. Their shooting is also just massively better in this detachment. Kabbalites, honestly, are an okay unit in other detachments. They're not like the best. And in this detachment, they just become really good, really solid. So taking multiple units of those is not a bad thing. And furthermore, Incubi are really awesome. They do a lot of damage to various different types of units. And they're even better in this detachment as well. And lastly, this detachment, believe it or not, doesn't need that many transports. I think you probably want some Venoms with some, Incubi in there. But other than that, it really doesn't need a ton of transports because everything is foot-based, right? Your Kabbalite warriors have bad synergy with raiders in this detachment, so don't use raiders, right? I made the mistake of putting a couple raiders in this list when I first made it, and they sucked. So get rid of them. You don't need them. Just infiltrate your guys. Second, Venoms are good, but only for small units of Incubi. And you can even put mandrakes in them, guys. I know that seems wild, okay? But hear me out. Mandrakes. You put them in the Venom, right? Maybe Lady Malice can redeploy them near a Venom, and you just hop them in. You could initially have Incubi in there. The Incubi can get out. You use the Mandrake's ability to pop back in reserve, and you can put them in the Venom and use them as a screen or use them as, an offensive unit later. By the way, they are also blades for hire. Mandrakes are blades for hire. I think they're a little bit expensive though, to be honest. And I think, it's not really worth it in this detachment, in my opinion, to have a bunch of them, but you can definitely have one unit of them to kind of just score objectives and stuff. So I don't think that's bad. Also, Ravagers, being able to lone op 18 themselves, really good. It means you can have a Ravager in the back just shooting all game long for a fairly cheap price. So I think there's a lot of good things about this detachment. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Again, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this combo. If you think of anything else, I know I'm missing stuff because there's so many applications of this. But I would just have to actually be in the game to notice it and be like, oh, I can go here and just completely ruin my opponent's plans. Or, oh, my opponent drew Storm Hostile Objective. Well, if I rapid ingress here, he's not going to be able to score that Storm Hostile Objective, right? Stuff like that. It seems like it's not that good until you realize I don't have to spend any resources for this. It's totally free. And now my opponent just can't score their secondary. And I'm going to get another primary point for this. I would easily spend that much points on something that can just guarantee me that. So, all right, guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great one. I do want to mention I have a Patreon. So if you guys want to support the channel or join the channel's Discord, I do have Patreon free trials. So you can join for free. Join the Discord. Very awesome Discord full of great people who love helping Dark Eldar or Eldar players alike with strategy, tactics, and hobbying. Of course, I'm always here as well. Really quick, haven't mentioned this in a while, but I do offer little tiny coaching sessions, not really big things, but, I'm here to talk things through with you. And I do have a Patreon tier for that. It's $20 a month, and you get to talk to me as many times as you want about, list building, gameplay, whatever you guys want. I can go over some examples on TTS with you guys. So much cheaper than anybody else out there. I'm kind of, I've been out of the competitive scene for a while physically, but, I play a ton of games. It's just the fact I don't have a fully painted army yet. I'm working on it. I've always been like one step away from having something fully painted and able to take to a tournament. And it just, something happens in my life where I can't do it. So I'm finally at that point where I think things are looking up, and I can probably do that in the coming months. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you want to join the Patreon, I'd be absolutely ecstatic about it. But you don't have to. You can always join the free trial and just get access to our Discord, and I'll still answer some questions and stuff like that you guys have. Okay, lastly, I do have a channel store page and an Amazon affiliate link. Check those out if you want to grab some discounted Eldar apparel or Dark Eldar apparel and minis. All right, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody. Peace out.